What up, Mike? Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like you wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1403. It's not 1430, it's 1403. You'll have to come back. Of Toronto Mic'd, proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. And don't worry, Mark, that box won't be empty when you leave. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. And Ridley Funeral Home. Pillars of the community since 1921. And yes, that measuring tape is for you, courtesy of Brad Jones at Ridley Funeral Home. Today, returning to Toronto Mic'd for the first time. Well, it's the first time we've had a face-to-face chat since you retired from Hebsy on Sports. It's Mark Hebscher.
Hey, not since Cinco de Mayo, Mike, have we spoken.
Wow, that's a long time ago. Okay, and here we are in 2024. Happy New Year to you.
And to you and the family and everybody. Boy, 2023 was just, I don't know, it was weird.
Well, we're going to recap it all because we haven't heard your voice in a while. But I want to say...
We're not going to do a year-ender, though, are we, Mike? Not a year-ender?
Well, remember, this is not Hebsy on Sports. It's Toronto Mike. So
no, but everybody does year-enders. Like, let's look back to January of
You don't like
year.
those?
No, I don't, because you're putting it in some kind of a segment like, can you remember back to 10 months ago?
Well, okay, but it is a good way to recap what happened in the
lazy
previous year.
way to finish the year of news so people go on holidays.
Some people enjoy it.
Yeah, I know.
But before we move too far, yes, it's Happy New Year. Everybody can celebrate the new year. It's January 2nd, but happy belated birthday. Your birthday was yesterday.
My birthday is January the 1st, so people automatically, or don't, go, oh, hey, Happy New Year, happy birthday. Ask anyone that's got a birthday between December 23rd and January the 2nd or something like that, and you'll find a similar response, and that is you really don't get the full birthday effect as someone in August or in June or whatever. It's because it's during the holidays.
But at least if you're Jan 1, people don't typically, I don't think you have a New Year's party. Like you do a New Year's Eve thing on December 31st, but New Year's, usually it's a low-key day. Like having a birthday party for Mark Hebscher would not detract from all the other festivities, I would think. But,
True.
So you got under the wire. But happy birthday. So as we speak, we're minutes removed from Canada losing a quarterfinal in the World Juniors to Czechia. Am I saying that right? Czechia. What is your interest level in that tournament, Mark Hebscher?
Oh, Mike, that's a tough one. There's so it used to be that it was the only thing going on Boxing Day, and you'd have some bowl games. Now it's like, do I have to arrange my life around a preliminary round? Okay, quarterfinal. Right. All right, it's winner take all. Right. But do I have to arrange my life, my viewing schedule, my sleep habits around it? No, I don't. So
your recording schedule?
I driving over, I listened on the radio. I listened to the game on the radio. I still don't know who the play-by-play voice was that I heard. I know that Devontae Smith-Pelly was the color commentator on the TSN radio broadcast, but I listened for 2 periods. The announcer never once revealed his name. This is something that's going in the book. Never once said, "Hi, it's Bill Smith here," along with Devontae Smith-Pelly. So I don't know the guy, and I didn't recognize his voice. I'm usually pretty good at that. I know that voice.
Of course you are, yeah.
And I thought, this is a good chapter for my book right here.
Well, what book are we talking about
the book that I'm currently writing, that I've signed a contract to write, and I have to write. So, that's why I came on the show, Mike.
Is that why you're here?
Because to say hi to you? No, I need to get some ideas. I need to get some other material. I need material.
Is it a fictional book? Is it?
No, of course not. No, it's
your memoir.
Imagine Hebsy on Sports talking about sports media.
Wow.
Because, you talk about what you know. It's like, Mike, could you do something on podcasting? I think I have a pretty good idea. So for me, it's like I pitched an idea. I have a book agent, Brian Wood, great guy, and the idea. And Ken Reed and I came up with this. We were playing golf, right? And he's like, he's written some books, and he said I pitched him this idea. I think I had mentioned this to you before, that for years I had gotten athletes to tell me about the first NHL game. You remember your first game?
Yeah, we played many clips on
many
this
clips
program.
from that. So I'd accumulated all this material.
Hebsy on Sports, I mean.
Right.
I forgot what we're doing here.
It's the same thing. It's your show too.
It's different song.
I really, now that I think of it, the show really should have been called Hebsy on Mike. It would have been perfect on MIC. But
anyway, good, because MIKE.
So anyway, we pitched this idea, right? The idea goes to the publisher, we pitch it. Everybody rejects the idea. Who wants to hear about hockey players' first goals and first games? No, there's some good stories. Nobody cares. So really, it's kind of like, people aren't going to read this. I mean, they might, but right. And then one publisher at the publisher at ECW Press was like, wait a minute, Mark Hebscher, I used to watch him on TV. I like his stuff. I heard it. Yes. Do you think he could write a book on something other than that? So, we'd love to hear what he's got to say about the sports media nowadays, because it's just so different from, I'm sure that, he's got experiences from when he started in sports media, followed sports media, how different it is now.
Wow. Okay. Can we expect this like next December?
A year. Yeah. Like two years from now. Almost 2 years from now. Yeah.
Oh my God.
In the fall of 2025. The fall of 2025. So yeah, it's basically, I got a year to write it. Okay. And in that, you write it, and then it goes to the editor, and they go back and forth, and then there's packaging, and you're adding photos and stuff like that. So in essence, it's got to be several months before it actually comes out on, like the actual print version comes out. It's got to be get to the publisher for the printer and all that stuff.
Okay, this is exciting. You mentioned the name Ken Reed. He's actually made his debut last month on Toronto Mike.
I know. I heard.
Okay, good.
You don't think you don't think when we're playing golf together, your name might have come up because
I don't know when you played.
You can't always bring on the celebrities that you want to from media because they're so fucking worried.
I know
they're
this.
so worried. The PR departments, which are running, sports anyway.
Oh, the TSN, the Bell Media people are scared, but the Rogers people too.
People are, yeah. So it's like, I don't know.
But Ken Reed came over.
Yeah, because Ken's not worried. But he's also not worried that, he's going to say something that's going to upset somebody, that's going to go to the, management, that's going to go, hey, come over here, we're going to. But there is that fear in the media industry.
That sucks, right? Like, because these people, so many, your job is so precious to you and your family and your livelihood, of course, and then there's so few of them. And you don't want to fuck it up by coming on Toronto Mike and saying something stupid, right? Like, I know I'm getting a lot of people out there, like, I would love to come on, I love your show, but I don't want to rile the PR overlords or at this cable company.
Well, there you go. There's another chapter for the book. Thanks, Mike. I already got 2 ideas right off the bat.
By the end of this program, the whole book will be written. Okay, we'll just transcribe the conversation here. Yeah.
But just remember, and I've spoken to our buddy Milan Talsania.
Okay,
because you and I and he, along with others on occasion, have done how many sports media podcasts?
I wanted to do it.
How
quarterly.
many did we do? 6, 8 of them, or something. So
and Brian Gerstein before.
Yeah,
that.
And Brian, right? So I had reached out to Milan. I now live up in his neck of the woods too. I live up in Markham now, and he's in Richmond Hill up there. So I'm like, hey, we should get together because who consumes more sports media than you? Right? Because, I was in sports media, so I couldn't be consuming while I was performing, that type of thing, right? He was watching and listening to everything.
Oh, yeah.
He was the guy that had on, the headphones listening to the talk show while he was watching, the scores and highlights flip by while he's reading, The Athletic and long form journalism and listening to the latest Toronto Mike podcast.
Love Milan. Hello, Milan. You're listening at home.
There you go.
Hello to Brian Gerstein, who's actually on the live stream, live.torontomike.com.
How's Brian doing?
Brian's got some questions for you later. I'm going to hit you with some Brian Gerstein questions, but I want to say hi quickly to Andrew Ward, Ian Service, Live Fumpka, Moose Grumpy, Rob Pruce, keyboardist from Spoons.
Rob, sure.
Hey, awesome. Shout out to Burlington. And hey, there you go. It all ties together. Hey Ref is here. Hello to Hey Ref. Canada Kev is here. You've smoked some weed with Canada Kev. There were some good times there. And YYZ Gord. Anyway, it's a great crew. A lot of people missed you. We got a lot of ground to cover. And I warned you, I pulled a lengthy clip I'm going to play pretty early here. But I got a note from Peter Kent.
My man, Peter Kent.
It's a big deal, Peter Kent.
I used to work with Peter at Global.
Yeah, he says, I'm looking forward to your chat with, he said, BBC Mark. BBC Mark. BBC Mark. I don't know what BBC stands for. Okay. Was fun working with him. Maybe FOT. Anyway, maybe it's autocorrect. Was fun trying to crack the code. Peter Kent is on a whole different intellectual level than I am.
No, no. Don't say that. No. Listen, Peter.
He's a bright man.
Peter's one of the guys. Don't kid yourself.
Oh, he loves his music.
No, he's one of the guys. But when you have to present yourself a certain way on television and before that on radio, I think, and follow in the footsteps of your famous brother, the Scud Stud.
Right. No,
right?
absolutely.
You know what I mean? You got to be
Did
able
you
to let
hear
your hair
his
down
visit?
sometimes.
His visit was remarkable.
He was great.
Yes, he was great. Okay, it was fun working with him. This is now back to Peter Kent. Was fun working with him and Taddy on the late shift at Global in the 1990s. One possible question, remembering a minor kerfuffle over his comments on curling. Ask if his views on the roaring game have evolved since then. And then Peter drops a yes guy, but now he's going to get an invoice.
But a yes guy, but that's Taddy, though.
I know,
just heard
I
him.
know.
Actually, Jim did the intermissions on the radio today. Him and Anthony Stewart. By the way, which were great. Anthony Stewart is so good on radio. Right? I'm not nuts about him on TV. He's getting a little better, but he's really good on radio. It just goes to show you there's certain, platforms, I guess we'd call them, Mike, that are just, that suit people better than others. Some writers are great writers. When they try to become broadcasters, they suck. Right. They fucking suck.
Got some
and listen, there's also broadcasters out there who can write to broadcast, right? But when it comes to writing something in print that you're going to look at and go, it's
who do you think is like a good example of someone who's a great writer but terrible on the radio or television?
See, there's one difference, and that is this person a panelist? In other words, is their job to like just appear on television and do the same thing they've done in print, pretty much, like, or have they gone from being a writer or a columnist to hosting?
Let's say host. Let's leave the
interviewing
panelists
a show.
alone. Leave the panelists alone, like a host.
That's a tough one, man. And I don't know. There's a few, I guess, but I just think that falls into a different category of, were you trained as a broadcaster? Were you trained as a journalist? Or were you just not trained at all? You were an athlete and someone said, hey, here's a little test. And look, all it takes is one producer of one show, a producer, to say, look, come over with me. Let me give you a couple of tips. And then that person becomes your mentor, your teacher, your instructor, as well as your boss, let's say. And that's how you learned. So you go, if it wasn't for, fill in the blanks, who was my early, when I first started at whatever network, and if it wasn't for that person's direction, I would have never been where I am today. It's great. It doesn't mean that you're a great broadcaster. It doesn't mean that the person that taught you knew what the fuck they were talking about. It just seemed to work for you. So you look at some broadcasters now and go, how did this person get to the position that they're at now?
Right.
How did they get there? It's like you see a couple, right? And you go, how did this guy meet this girl? How did and you come up with scenarios in your mind. How did it happen? And a lot of times the scenario is, this person happened to be in the right place at the right time, isn't making a lot of money, was attractive to advertiser, producer, whatever case.
Maybe they brought an advertiser.
Check the boxes, or the timing of that person. Let's say it was, for example, a female, all right, a person of color, a person of different sexual orientation. Well, that checks 3 boxes right there. And so, oh, really? And we can pay you $40,000 a year and put you on television, and great. Just do us a favor, go to the college of whatever, for a year. So, if you've had some, I went to this, Ryerson or whatever it's called.
TMU.
Fuck that place.
What do you mean by fuck that place?
Well, because that's the whole
renaming?
the law. All the fucking law students there who fucking signed that petition. Let's kill all the Jews.
Okay, so.
Oh, fuck that.
Educate me. I did hear a little about this, but I have a question.
I didn't come here to.
You didn't come here for that.
On this whole thing, I'm just saying that particular place, this whole fucking thing. Let's change the name of it because. Right? And we went through it with Lou Marsh. That's different. Right. It's different. Right? It was Lou Marsh. It was this guy who was fucking writing this shit for years and people were believing him. And that's where anti-Semitism and racism begins. When you're reading someone, I don't know, this guy says, okay, I guess we can call him those names. That perpetuated it. So he was a bigger part. He was a part of the problem. He wasn't a part of the solution. He didn't say, let's all get together and not be racist and treat people as equals. So that thing was, there was a cause there. But this whole thing with Dundas and Ryerson and wait a second, did you know that he was a slave? Oh, apparently he wasn't. Apparently he was an abolitionist. Oh, well, we're not sure. Well, we've already decided to change the name. Well, fuck that. And the renaming of Young Dundas Square, come on.
You say keep the name.
Keep it. Come on. Is that what we're going to do? We're going to change names as time goes on of everything?
But you were adamant that the Lou Marsh Award should be renamed.
Yes, I
so
was.
It depends, I suppose.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. But it's just like no one ever said anything about it before. And then you're right. It didn't all come up at one time, but there was a lot of writing since Bruce Kidd back in I think he wrote about it back in the 70s or 80s about how, because of Tom Lombo, the way he was treated. Some of this, a lot of these things. But at the time it was like, how much, what am I going to do? I'm going to protest. I'm not going to accept the award. But Bruce Kidd never called it the Lou Marsh Award.
Right.
He didn't recognize the man who it was named after.
Okay, I'm going to bring us back in line here because the great Peter Kent, FOTM Peter Kent, just wants to know if your comments on curling have, in his words, evolved since then.
Yes, they have. And I'll tell you why. Because women's curling is way more exciting than men's curling. It's way more exciting and way more emotional, right? Like you're allowed to be emotional. So when I started paying a little more attention, and again, not every curling thing, like there's curling that's on Sportsnet sometimes. It's just your average kind of a midweek curling, Wednesday night curling or whatever. I'm talking the Briar. And I'm talking the Olympics or the World Championships.
High stakes.
Yeah, big stuff like that, right? If Newfoundland is playing, Manitoba, I don't have that much interest. But if there's a particular player, especially the skip of one of those squads on the women's teams, that's like, let's go, highly emotionally charged or whatever, and I'm not going to be honest with you, and attractive, that doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt to be attractive.
Do the men players have to be attractive? Just the women players?
I think so too.
You want a hot guy out there?
Well, it's not a hot guy. It's just, you want them well groomed and you want the person to fit. Thank you. That kind of a thing. Right. They're representing their province or their squad or whatever. Right. So, and I can freely admit this because, Mike, I can't get in trouble anymore.
Right.
See, I look at all these friends of mine, colleagues that are still in the business, and they're worried.
Walking on eggshells.
They're worried. What if I said something? What if you said something in 1997 that came back to haunt you? What if someone took a piece of tape from a Sportsline show that I did in whatever year and said, there's Mark Hebscher, racist motherfucker.
Right.
But
not
wait
racist, more like misogyny. Like, I don't think they're going to find anything racist from Mark Hebscher. No, but I could see there will be clips where you probably, maybe you're not as big.
But you can't.
Women's hockey or something.
You can't, not only is it unfair, it's completely out of context. What was life like in that year?
But you do realize you can talk similarly about people like Lou Marsh, right? Like at his time, it was, I'm not going to say it was in vogue, but it was definitely more socially acceptable to be anti-Indigenous.
The reason being it was socially acceptable is because writers
like him
were
normalizing it.
More than normalizing it, I think more encouraging it. Like, hey, how does that little, whatever he called him, chief, wampum, in print. And remember, in print it lasts forever, man. Like, well, Lou Marsh is writing it, so I guess it's true. So I guess it's okay that we do this. In fact, let's keep doing it.
Now, Peter Kent used the phrase "yes, guy," which is what Jim Taddy would say.
That's that was a global. So Peter can use that, of course, because Peter was there when it was being used. Ad nauseum.
Yes, guy.
At Global.
Well, he's still using it
in the newsroom. I mean, everybody, right? It was actually a guy named a fellow named Steve Kless, who's our studio director, a great guy, right? And it was like, people would say yes, sir, no, sir, and whatever, however it came about, it was yes, guy. And then it evolved to we gee. If there was we're doing Quebec Nordique games, or right, like we gee.
The origin story,
right? But when you write we gee, it looks like we guy.
Right.
Yes. And the street in Montreal is called GUI. Is called what street? What's it called?
Guy Street?
No, it's called Guy Street.
Okay.
Just to fuck you up even more. Right? I'm going over to Rue de la Guy. No, it's Guy Street. What? This is Montreal, isn't it? Next is Rue Saint-Catherine. Anyway.
So since we last talked on May 5th, 2023, have you had any interactions with Jim Taddy?
No, I haven't had any interactions with them, but you know what? A lot of times if people post something and they're talking about Sportsline, they'll tag both Jim and I, right. And we will both, right? Like we won't go to each other and go, hey, are you going to like that? Or are you going to put a thumbs up for that? I'll see something like that and we'll, we will both, be part of the same thread where it's like, well, thanks for that or appreciate that. Nice. Well,
you're going to forever be associated with each other. You're like, talk to the Jay Onrights and more than that. I
don't have a problem with that, Mike, because let's face it, what Jim and I did, we revolutionized sports television. We just did.
Highly influential in this country, and we can see it in how it evolved. It was let's be like Hebsy and Taddy.
Yeah, if it wasn't for me and Jim and what Global allowed us to do different from all the other stations. This was back in, like, Bob McCown started in 81, so Jim and I got together in 84, summer of 84, during the LA Olympics, as I recall. And no one ever said, you can't do this. It evolved because it was like, look, we're watching games. And remember, he had worked for City before that. And pretty wide open stuff, fun reporting, with Peter Gross and John Saunders, and they had a lot of fun doing, stuff there. It was a lot of it was off the wall stuff, but still it was good. There was journalism. It was good reporting. And I had been doing, the Jays games, the pre and post game show. And before that, I was a talk show host on radio, yelling and screaming at people and telling them, to get lost and hanging up on them and telling them they should be wearing a straitjacket and that your idea for a trade was ridiculous and, all that shit. Before Twitter, anyone ever thought of Twitter, that's what the talk show was. That's exactly what it was.
And who was your main influence with that? Like, was there a particular...
Well, that was McCowan.
Bob McCowan.
Because I produced Bob's talk show when I first started in radio, right? And when Bob started doing the talk... When I first started listening to Bob, there was Dick Beddoes, who had a show called Hockey Hotline. Right? Monday nights on CFRB, Dave Hodge and or Bill Stevenson, and I'm not sure, Fred Locking would be a part of that. They did a really good, I think it might have been 2 hours, or at least an hour for sure, 8 to 9 maybe, or 8 to 10. And it was great because it had Argo stuff and it had, the Blue Jays were just coming along then, so it might have been just before that. So there was Argo stuff, there was Leaf stuff, it was good reporting. You had guys like Fred Locking and Sunil Joshi and Doug Beeforth, who were part of the CFRB 1010 sports team. They were fantastic, man. Like, really good. But it wasn't on that often. It was like once a week. Okay. McCowan, when he came on, he would come on after the games. I think when the Jays started, he was doing PA for the Jays, but he also would come on afterwards, like 10 till midnight kind of a thing.
Have you reached out to Bob since his strokes?
I haven't. You can't really get through to Bob, right? And but I've commented on a lot of the postings. I hope he gets better. And quite frankly, if you go into your archives, go see the interview he did on Joe Tilley's show. He was fabulous. Joe had him, I'm going to say it was about a month ago now. He was great. He was, he didn't seem to me like, the way he articulated, he didn't seem that he was under the effects of a stroke. He had trouble remembering things. Okay. He also had explained that it was difficult for him, your saliva and, like stuff like that. The man had 2 strokes. But it was a good show. I was surprised at how.
Coming up.
He was great. So go find that show that Joe Tilley's great Canadian sports show, the Bob McCowan one from, I think I'm going to say mid-December, early December.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Now we're going to take this is your...
Did I answer Peter Kent's question, by the way, about
you
curling?
did evolve because now you like women's curling.
I can't pick out one in particular. I do know that I had interviewed the late Sandra Schmerler. I thought she was just fantastic, man. I just thought she was really... Perry
Lefko wrote a book about her.
Yeah. She was great. Like, really so down to earth and just like, your neighbor's mom or whatever. But like a tiger. She was a tiger. Fantastic, and competitive. And you'd hear that emotion and go, you know what? She's a champion. And of course, a gold medalist and died so young.
Died way too soon. Now, quick question from the live stream is, what years did you produce McCowan? We're trying to document your life here, Hebsy.
Okay, so what years did I produce McCowan? So I wanted to be a sportscaster, and I would show up. I knew where he parked his car, underground, across from behind Maple Leaf Gardens, and then walk to half a block to the radio station. So I would stake the place out at like 5:30 in the morning. At 5:30 in the morning, he'd come out of the parking garage and I'd be there. And all the rubbies were on the streets there, right?
For sure.
There were, yeah. And those like sort of warming incinerators, the big,
the grates.
Yeah, that's where the rubbies would hang out there.
Of course.
Or they would be in the corridor as you walked into the radio station, right at Grenville and Yonge there, like right across from the McDonald's there. It was a bad area. Like, it was really, so I'd startle a guy. I'd say, what are you doing here? I said, I want a job. So I shadowed him for a couple of days, and then he said, I said, I want to be a sportscaster. And he said, well, we'll take you into Foster and Bill Hewitt and Ron Hewitt, and got me a gig, and I produced his show.
1430, right?
Yeah. And I produced his show, and it was great because he needed a producer. He couldn't make all the calls himself, and there were no cell phones in those days. So you had to arrange call outs or call ins. Usually it was call outs, right? So give me your number at home. I'll phone you at 10 o'clock, right?
Right.
And so now he's got a producer. My producer will call you. So we would make these arrangements during the day. And he had he had like Muhammad Ali's phone number at his place in Michigan. He had like the coaches like Joe Paterno's phone number and Woody Harrelson. Like it was great. It was great. And so it was very exciting to put a show together where you're talking about the things that were topical. He had Pat Gillick and Sam Ewing of the Blue Jays, and one day Sam was chewing tobacco and spitting it into a cup, and Pat was drinking red wine out of a cup, and everybody getting sloshed, and it was a hell of a show. Really good. So this was great. This is what I was introduced to. So Bob was a big influence, but at first Bob was straightforward, a know-it-all kind. He knew everything, but he didn't show like a lot of personality. We used to listen to this guy, Pete Franklin, out of Cleveland.
Right, I've heard this name, yes.
This guy was wild. And the Cleveland Cavaliers were a terrible, terrible team. And the Cleveland Indians were a terrible, terrible team. And the Cleveland Browns were a terrible team. Right? They were just awful. All their teams were bad. And the Cleveland Barons had left town. They were an NHL team in Cleveland. They had an NHL team in Cleveland. So this city was just horrible. We would listen to this guy, and he would rail on people, and he was anti-management of every single Cleveland team because they were all so bad. Fire this guy, trade this guy. What are you, out of your mind? Hanging up on people, jerks. And he was tremendous, right? And way over the top. So we would listen to this guy. And after a while, McCowan took some of those elements, a bit of an edge, a bit more of what do you know what you're talking about? Stuff like that. But at the same time, he honed his interview skills. He was such a good interviewer. Bob was a very, very underrated interviewer. Don't think about the last couple of years where people were accusing him of mailing it in, or he had really good people on the panel. He was a great interviewer, one-on-one. And on radio, he had all kinds of time. And so this is how you develop it. You're in a conversation with someone. You're getting deep into a conversation. You're 10 minutes, 15 minutes in. You're getting into some deep stuff. The person you're interviewing is pretty relaxed now. They're willing to talk. Maybe they're sitting on the couch having a beer or two. I don't know. But what's happening is as time goes on, you get to know the person better.
Right.
You feel...
Well, you gain their trust.
You gain their trust, but you also gain confidence that you can ask a question that you would have never thought of asking. At this point, were you really screwing so-and-so's wife? Pause.
That's maybe not question.
Maybe not that far, but you get the idea. That is that the
you
further you can go, or the more times you have spoken to someone. So imagine a reporter trying to gain an edge, trying to get information for his whatever, sports media he works for, he or she works for, and trying to gain the trust of this one particular person, the coach, a player, whatever it is. You've got to visit them. You've got to see them every day. You've got to cultivate this relationship to the point where now the time comes where I got to start getting some good information from this person, right? But that's something that takes time. You don't have that today in sports reporting. You just don't. Quick
question from Gare Joyce, who's now calling himself Kingston Gare.
I read his stuff all the time.
Yeah, well, he's great sports
writer. I read his, I haven't upgraded to premium though, and I'm sorry, Gare. I think I had the first year or whatever, and I missed, I don't know, whatever it was.
Good writer though, that Gare Joyce. Really did Hebsy work with Mark Askin?
Here's a great Mark Askin story. So when McCowan had his show, a lot of times it was after the game because we had the rights to the Leafs and the Blue Jays. So after the game. So, let's say 10 o'clock. I think the games were at 7 or whatever. Let's say it was 10 to midnight. But if the game went to 10:35 or 10:40, whatever it was, they'd figure it out. And sometimes we'd go on for like an extra hour because Jimmy Swaggart was on at midnight or some whatever show it was. So McCowan the show was an open line show. Hey, 870-9115. It's CKFH. It's Talking of Sports with Bob McCowan. And, let's hear what you had to say. Did you listen to the Jays game? Because it wasn't on TV. There weren't, games. There was only a couple games a week on TV. Do you want to talk about what was on Wide World of Sports last week? Or, hey, did you get the latest Sports Illustrated magazine? Stuff like that. And so, phone lines are open. So I'm manning the phones, right? The producer mans the phones, the call screener. So the phones are, sometimes they would light up and sometimes, you get a few calls.
Right.
So sure enough, on a nightly basis, there were some regulars that we would have. And the best of them all was this kid named Mark. Okay? He worked in the stockroom at Eaton's, College Street, I do believe, right? And he was a young guy, about my age, maybe a couple years younger. And he knew sports like you have no idea. Wow. Like McCowan and me are like, Jesus Christ, we thought we were freaking knowing this kid. Boy, does he ever know his stuff. What's he do? He works he works at Eaton's, okay? I think he had just lost his father. Anyway, but boy, was he good. And what a great caller. Because if you had time to fill, this is the kind of guy you want on the air with you.
Right.
He wants to know about the Cleveland Browns, and he's got some opinions on that. The Toronto Maple Leafs, the defense should punch him like make a deal. Da, da, da. Oh, the Argonauts, the CF. Like, he really knew his stuff. So I wanted to be a sportscaster. Like, I liked doing it, but that was my foot in the door. But I wanted to be an announcer. And so, I had an opportunity. I think Bill Hewitt said, do you want to do the 4 p.m. sports? 4 o'clock sportscaster, and maybe the noon sports or something like that. It evolved to that. And I said to Bob, I want to be able to do this. He said, well, you can't produce the show and do this. I said, well, I want to be a sportscaster. And he was like, well, geez, you can't just, we got to find somebody to take your place. So I think, as I recall, it was like, well, this kid, Mark, that we talked to, I got his phone number.
Wow.
Right. And, that guy's great. I wonder does he know anything about radio? I was like, what does he have to know? What does he have to know? Here's how you answer the phone. And he knows everything about sports, so he knows who you're talking to and all that type of thing. You don't have to worry about that. The other thing is this. Mark's the kind of a guy who, let's say you're struggling to come up with something or whatever. Mark's the kind of a guy who, if you can't fill in the blanks, he just gets on the intercom and goes, 1974, it was Pete Rose. He had 333 and had a 44-game hitting streak. Like that. And Bob, and then before you knew it, Bob would repeat verbatim, what he had gotten in his ear. That's good production. That's a good producer. Helping you out. So that's how we discovered Mark.
That's an amazing origin
That's how
story.
we discovered Mark.
I got to get Mark Askin on Toronto.
Yeah. And Mark, let me tell you, man, he ran that show. I mean, he was a fantastic, he was the original, what I think, sports producer. He could produce a radio show. He could produce a live broadcast. He could produce a live to tape. He produced Sportsline for years, right? He could put a show together, an opening together, an intermission together, a segment together, like nobody else when it comes to sports. And look, you talk about guys like Ralph Mellenby, who's a spectacular producer, multi-Emmy award winner. He did the Olympics, he did Hockey Night in Canada, stuff like that. And I'm sure he did other things as well, television shows. But geez, the depth of what Mark could do in any situation, live situation, when it came to a sports program, was remarkable. And that's why when Sportsline began, the first thing Bob said was Bob had never done TV either. He's like, come on, let's go, man. We got to do this show.
Amazing. By the way, fact check, shout out to Robert Lawson, although this comes from Gare. He says it wasn't Swaggered on after, it was Huntley Street.
That's right. I'm sorry. You're right. It was Huntley Street. Hey, listen, they made a lot of money from those syndicated shows. The shows would come in on reel-to-reel tape, those big metal reel-to-reel tape reels, the big mothers. I think they were 12-inch metal reels.
Right.
The shows were pre-taped, everything from Jimmy Swaggart to Huntley Street and all that. All those shows were pre-taped, and they would show up at the station, and then the operator would just put them on, spool them through the big Ampex, hit play when the time came, go to the bathroom, go for a smoke, whatever it was. Those were the money makers on that station.
Amazing. So here we are. We're half an hour deep, and now we're going to kind of reset so we can move forward here, Mr. Hebscher. So May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, as you said, 2023. Hard to believe that long ago. That was the day we recorded the final episode of Hebsy on Sports. It was about 5 years, would you say? 5 years of Hebsy on Sports?
Oh my God!
Around there, we'll say. I feel like it was 2018. I think
we did close to 300 episodes. So, but I remember we did. Did we not do 2 a week to start?
Oh yeah. No, there was definitely 2 a week to start, and then it became every Friday. But it was it was at least 5 years. Now, I warned you there was a clip, so you can go. Well, it's just because I know for your show, these clips have to be short. You like a short clip, I feel, and I personally typically try to keep my clips under 2 minutes.
It's not a clip if it's that long.
Well, it's 5 minutes.
That's
is that
a segment.
clip?
That's a whole segment on its own. Yeah, a clip is up to 45 seconds.
Okay, but the problem with you is there's nowhere you can't cut this. So it's basically we're going to go through this exercise.
I'm dying to hear this already.
So May 5th, everybody, 2023, just to paint the picture, this is a Friday morning at about 8:50 a.m. Eastern. I come down, at this time we were doing it via Zoom. I log into Zoom. You're in Markham, I guess, and you're logging
Gateway to Stouffville.
Right. Shout out to Jeff Merrick. And Rod Black, right? Is Rod Black a Stouffville guy?
I think he is a Stouffvillian. He might be a Unionvillian.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
And that's north? No.
No. Unionville is you don't know your.
I don't know my. I'm lost.
Region. You don't know your.
I'm lost.
Region, yeah.
But he did send me a Christmas card, Rod Black. So shout out to Rod Black.
His son Tyler is going to
Baseball, yeah.
He's going to be okay, this kid, eh?
And he's two sons that are pretty damn good, as I understand.
Isn't it great watching Canadian athletes, like sons of people that you know too?
Oh yeah,
right? Like RJ Barrett, like Rowan Barrett's son. Yeah, Morgan Frost.
Yeah,
but RJ Barrett's favorite team was the Raptors growing up, right? His old man was like Team Canada guy. So I love seeing these youngsters who are like even Wiggins,
right.
Like it's just great to see. Canada has so many fabulous athletes. It's wonderful.
Love it. So May 5th, 2023, brushing up. Here's the how we started. And again, we didn't talk too much beforehand. I think this is what I remember. Every episode of Hebsy on Sports, I would get show notes, so I knew where you were going. So I would try not to steal your thunder, although I rarely read them ahead of time. I should have read them more often. Okay, so there was no show notes this morning, this Cinco de Mayo 2023. And I think I said something, Hebsy, you forgot to send me show notes. And you mumbled something to the effect of, no notes today. This is the last show. And then we started recording. So this is when we started. I pressed record, and this is what we all heard. Los Lobos, everybody. Do the Murray.
Hey, sports fans, welcome to Hebsy on Sports, episode 332. 332. My favorite number. A number I've always aspired to. Sort of like 500 home runs.
Right.
332 podcasts. Mark Hebscher here alongside Toronto Mike on a very sad day for some, very happy day for others, especially this guy, your humble reporter. I don't have a script for today's show. I didn't want to do today's show. Because it's just been too painful lately. This is not like a mental illness, but I don't know. It's just been really painful. Because as a lifelong follower of sports, and especially Toronto teams, I am at my wit's end right now. The daily discussions about our teams and certain players and managers and broadcasters and executives and what they're doing wrong and referees and what the betting odds are. And how the refs and umps are screwing us, and how Rogers and Bell are fucking cheapskates, and all this is just driving me nuts. I can't go anywhere without someone asking me about what happened to O-Dog and all this shit. Sorry. So we've got fans that are spending thousands of dollars to buy jerseys of the opposing teams so they can sit in Toronto and root against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we're trying to make cult heroes out of these fuckers. This is what I'm dealing with on a daily basis. I don't want to have to deal with this. All right. We've got some of the most ridiculous accusations and conspiracy theories in sports history going on out there. We've got investigative reporters doing investigative reporting. We've got other people doing no reporting at all. None whatsoever. Every day, it's a new investigation concerning some of the biggest names and teams and brands in all of sports. Oh, yeah, Messi, suspended, went to Saudi Arabia. Oh, the lived... Fucking nothing but controversy. Do I really care that Aaron Rodgers is a New York Jet? No. Or Tom Brady might come out of retirement, or I don't know, might date another supermodel, or that Tiger Woods is recovering nicely from plantar fasciitis after he almost had his leg amputated. No, not anymore. I couldn't care less. I really couldn't care less. And that's another thing. If I hear anyone else say they could care less, that doesn't mean the same as I couldn't care less. And I got the gardener, I think, outside in the backyard here who doesn't know that I do Friday podcasts, but it's okay. And the Kentucky Derby is this Saturday, and the Indianapolis 500, and all these major events that I used to watch them because I love them and because it was part of my job. But you know what? No longer. It's not part of my job. I don't have to see the Kentucky Derby. I don't have to make a prediction on the Indianapolis 500. I don't have to anymore tell you what I think the odds are of the Maple Leafs beating another team from Florida and how they'll do in the third period of Game 5, because in the past they had blown 3-goal leads in their past 6 games. Really? And I just, and how someone did in their last 11 games versus Hall of Famers in their final 11 games at age 40 plus, my brain hurts. It does. It's not my job anymore. I'm here to announce, I guess at my own press conference or my own podcast, that I'm retiring from podcasting and any other form of verbal sports communication. No longer am I the guy to go to, let's hear what Hebsy had to say about whatever. It's a lot of responsibility, folks. I can't do it anymore. I'm too old for this. So, the idea of retirement is like real retirement. All right. Is that you can do anything you want, anything. You have the means to do it. you have no responsibility to any boss or like, and I was my own boss. No work obligations at all. That's what I want. I want real retirement. So on Friday mornings and every morning from now on, I want to get up when I want and I want to go play golf. That was my goal when I was in my 30s. When I took up golf, I thought, oh man, I'd like to make enough money that I can retire and be able to play golf every day. And so that's where I'm at now. No work, golf every day. Pretty simple, right? But the last couple of weeks, putting the podcast together and getting enthused about it, knowing that golf season was starting and that I couldn't go out every Friday morning and play in a men's league because I had responsibilities and I couldn't do anything for Fridays. And Thursday nights, I couldn't sleep well because I had to make sure I had watched all the games. Like last night when I watched the Kraken and the Stars and the Lakers and the Warriors after watching the Leafs get beat, after watching the Blue Jays get beat. It's just too much. And I saw none of the NFL draft, so I can't report on it. I saw none of the CFL draft, so I can't report on it. And I used to know more about sports than 99.99% of the populations. This is fact. I did. I was once that person. But now, no, I don't know half as much as the average tweeter out there. It's exhausting to keep up. It's hard. And I don't have inside sources like I used to. I just don't. Most of them have been fired or they just can't talk for fear of losing their jobs. And you know who you are. And I don't blame you at all. Why would you want to tell me something that what if the word gets out and it gets back to you and you get fired from your job or demoted or your contract isn't renewed? I'd feel terrible. I don't like having to report that this person's been fired from their job or this person after a number of years is no longer with the company or this person can't travel to go to games, right? That whole Joe Bowen thing was just, fuck, he wasn't at the game. Why wasn't he at the game? Ridiculous. I don't want to have to go through this at all. Nothing. So, Mike, when I say, like when you say, for example, I can hardly wait to hear what Hebsy has to say about so-and-so. Right. I panic because I may not have an opinion on that subject, or I hadn't read the story on Twitter, or I hadn't formulated an opinion, but I have to have an opinion because you're going to ask me about it. People are going to want to know. What happened to O-Dog last week? That's what they're going to ask me. That's a lot to cover. Can't do it anymore. Here's the deal. This is the last Hebsy on Sports podcast. And Mike, I'm sorry to say this, and like sort of like you're fired. I'm fired. I'm firing both of us. The board of directors, executives said, that's it. No more. Not good for your health. So you're going to have to tell Mike. So I'm sorry.
Wow. Okay. That's why I couldn't cut that. Like I just needed, this is the 5+ minutes that opened that episode 332 on May 5th, 2023. So the first question for you, Hebsy, is how's retirement? You enjoying yourself? What's happened since that day? You just been golfing? What's going on?
I missed the podcast.
Do you?
I do. No, there are times. No, absolutely. There are times where it's like, oh man, it would have been good. But like, here's the thing, Mike. It was, I think the last part was, the responsibility that I felt. Because, if you go back, and you don't have to, but if you go back and say, I wonder what Hebsy thinks about this. And if you took everyone else on social media who posted something like that, I wonder what Hebsy, can't wait for Hebsy's take on this one. Right. Mike, that's the way it's been with me for 45 years, right? So when I first started in the business and I had a talk show, it was the same thing. What is he going to say about what is he, And what happened was people would report stuff. Saying, I don't know if you heard this, Mark, because I was at the Jays game and a guy behind me, blah, 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 right? This before the internet. Right. The internet changed everything. But when you heard that stuff, the only way for people to get that off their chest was to call in the talk show, right? You weren't going to be writing in the news. Maybe your letter to the editor might get published, maybe. But also, it can only be like, 100 words or whatever. Man, you got a chance to get on a talk show and say, this is what happened. I mean, that was beautiful. I mean, that's Vox Populi. That's what sports is about, especially the local teams. Sports is local. And so to me, on Twitter now, right, it's like having a talk show, except there's no host. It's everybody's going back and forth. And there might be a couple of little arguments and back and forth. And, that's pretty good. I want to listen to those two. But really, it's just, I don't want to say it's a cesspool. It's not. I'm part of it too. Mike's part. But it's just everybody is a talk show host.
Yeah, it's a lot of noise.
Yeah, you're all talk show hosts. You're all trying to do the same thing that I did in a controlled environment, structured. Here's the topic. Let's hear what you have to say about this. Now, the best part of it, I think, was you would get a good call. Like when Mark Askin would come on the show when he was a caller, he'd make a real cogent point. And from there, that was a jumping off point. Now people would call in and go, hey, you know what he said about blah? I got something. So you allow the listener to actually carry the ball for a while if someone's got a really interesting point, different from, or just something you hadn't thought of, right? And then everyone else goes, yeah, I'm glad someone's talking about that. And now it starts to snowball. And now you've got yourself a topic that didn't exist when the show began, but is really interesting to hear people's opinions on, especially if they're different from yours. You're going, I thought everybody thought that Jesse Barfield had the strongest arm in baseball, and you're telling me that so-and-so did? Like that kind of a thing. So I ended up becoming a natural contrarian because I needed to say to someone, I don't know if that's correct or not. And unfortunately, that became that's in my DNA now. It's I just naturally, do you want to go to, what do you think of that? And my natural response is to go, well, hang on a second. Let's all not jump in on it. People can get really enthusiastic saying, he's the best player I ever saw. Hang on a second. Literally? Really the best player you ever saw? Or maybe for that moment.
Right.
And so that's when I think I started to become that guy who I want to get a good discussion started. I love a good discussion. And if voices happen to be raised, okay, as long as it's not the intimidating time, as long as you're making sense and you're not, getting into name calling and stuff like that, that to me is sports. Is fans talking about stuff, right? And everyone's entitled to an opinion. And just because you're the talk show doesn't mean that you're right, but you've got to direct things a certain way.
Okay, but those opening remarks on May 5th, 2023, the final episode of Hebsy on Sports, any regrets, Hebsy?
No, because
regrets.
that's how I was feeling. Mike, that's how I was feeling.
Because it's been 8, I just did the math real quick.
Yeah.
You saw me counting my fingers. That's how I had to do it. But it's been 8 months.
Yeah, that's how. But at that time, the whole buildup, like I said, it culminated with, I wonder what Hebsy thinks. I'm going, geez, do I have an opinion on that? I better have one. I had better formulate an opinion on that because everyone's talking about it, and that's not the way I work. I'm the one who's saying this is what we're talking about, and only these things. But Mike, you would come on and say, I got to ask you, or Brian Gerstein's got to ask you, or Kev, someone's got to ask, right? So once you open it up, it becomes it's like a talk show, and it's like, well, I don't know. Whereas when I had a real talk show, I knew. You could ask me anything about sports, I would have an opinion on it, right? Because I was informed, because I knew. But now, you expect me to know about the PWHL? Geez, the league just started now. I don't have the mental.
Did you watch yesterday?
Yes, of course I did.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes, I don't have the mental capacity. I don't have enough a file system that I can fit in the PWHL into everything else that I've got. Do you know that yesterday, New Year's Day, my birthday, I got up at 6:30 in the morning because I have to feed the cat anyway. I'm watching soccer from England. Then I'm watching PWHL. Mm-hmm. Then I'm watching the Winter Classic. Then I'm watching the Rose Bowl. Then I'm watching the Raptors. Nice win. Right. And then I'm watching the Sugar Bowl. And then I'm watching, I forget. Anyway, I watch sports all day long. If I would have had a Hebsy on Sports show today, for example, I got lots because I watched it. But it's because I wanted to, not because I had to. But I understand
Hebsy on Sports was not a Rogers Communications production or a Bell Media. Like, if you don't want to talk about something or you don't care about something, then you don't have to talk about it.
No, but I couldn't say that on the show, especially if you came up with a question.
But that would be pure Hebsy, and people just want you to be as Hebsy as you can be.
So if someone came up with a question, if one of our listeners came up
questions
with a question, no, I'm saying on those shows,
right?
I would, and you would say, I couldn't say, well, I don't give a shit about that because that's not fair. The person asking the question is going, wait a minute, what do you mean he doesn't have an opinion on it or he doesn't want to talk about it?
What does fair have to do with it?
Because I didn't want to have that capacity.
Life isn't fair.
Of being the guy, the go-to guy on every single sport. You could ask me about the collective bargaining agreement that the PWHL has. Mike, I'll tell you everything about it. I do. I know everything about it.
How much are these women getting paid?
Up to $80,000 a year.
That's good.
I think 5 players on each roster have to be making a minimum of $55,000.
That's good.
They get $81 a day in per diem. All right.
Okay.
$20 for breakfast, $25
Were you part of the
for
negotiation
lunch.
team? What's
No.
going on?
But what I'm saying to you is that the structure of the league, the way it's set up, and they're going to lose a lot of money the first year and a lot of money the second year and probably close to break even. This is their business plan. It's like an 8-year plan.
Okay.
And they've got everything covered. The officiating is top notch. Okay? It's from the same feeder system, NHL, AHL, all that, right? Hybrid rules. One of the rules, by the way, Mike, is I want to talk about the PWHL, which I don't think I like, but I could get to like it, is if you score a shorthanded goal, your penalty comes off the board. So I don't know if a team would take risks knowing that if they gave up a shorthanded goal, now their power play is doomed as well. I think it might change. But anyway, interesting. It went to a vote, I guess. Committee said, let's try it. Let's try it. Let's make it a little bit different because there's no body checking. So there's no hitting.
But I did see hitting, so they just let it go.
But it's incremental. It's not. You're not.
I saw some hip checks out there.
Yeah, but not really. It's more it's not. Yeah, it's not the same.
Right.
And you're not going to get brawls, and you're not going to get a lot of stick swinging and stuff like that. It's a different game. But having said that, I think it's fantastic. And I think the fact that there are broadcast outlets and many platforms where you can that yesterday's game was on CBC, TSN, and Sportsnet 1.
So all your own different crews? Because I only saw the CBC.
No, same crew.
Same crew. Okay.
No, it's the same crew.
Andy Petrillo. And
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. My other question, by the way, is, are there going to ever be any men on camera, or is it all going to be women? And are all the producers and the technicians and audio and camera operators, is it all women?
We'll find out. But speaking of that, so I do want to get in a question for Edmonton Matt. Okay. Edmonton Matt wants to know what you think of the fact that Cassie Campbell apparently quit her gig at
Not apparently.
No, okay, well, okay.
Yeah,
she quit her gig at Sportsnet.
Right.
To be an advisor with. So what are your thoughts on that? That's
I think good for her.
Yeah.
I mean, what does she do? She got to wait around to do one hockey game or 2 hockey games a week and all that. And I don't know what the money was like, but obviously if you want to be a part of something, and look, she's a smart girl, all right, woman.
Right.
She saw the business plan. She knows the people who are involved, right? Knows them, some of them intimately, right? Being
and there's
teammates
some deep
and whatever.
pockets behind this.
And there's huge deep pockets. What's the guy's name? Mark, I'm trying to think of the investor, but Billie Jean King approached the guy, hedge fund manager and venture capitalist, the whole deal. And Billie Jean King said, look, this is going to go and we need your support. And they were like, oh yeah, we're in. Because Billie Jean King is the grande dame of equality when it comes to sports. Like, she was the one who said, look, I'm going to beat Bobby Riggs, and then we're going to start a tennis tour, and if you don't like it, we'll carry it. We'll look after it. I mean, the Battle of the Sexes was more than just, a tennis event. It was huge. It was also, it paved the way for Title IX in the United States, which means that all scholarships from any federally funded school have to be split equally between males and females. For that, there'd be 95 scholarships for football for men and 3 scholarships for women.
Right.
So it's a huge thing. And so Billie Jean King, for her to be behind this, that's massive. You have daughters. I mean, come on, you must think, what great opportunity. If my daughter wants to play professional hockey, there's an opportunity for her.
Absolutely. No, I was happy to see it. Now, specific questions here. So we no regrets. You walked away from Hebsy on sports.
But remember, too, all this material, Mike, is going to go into a book that you're going to want to read.
Absolutely.
Right, because it's about the same stuff that we talked about. It's all this kind of stuff here.
No, I can't wait. When this book is coming out, I hope you drop by and
I will.
We promote it. So one question is, because it's been 8 months since we talked on Mike's. I talked at all, really, because it's been just email stuff.
Yeah.
Nairb Yellet, I hope I'm saying that right, says, why so long? 8 months? You just needed to golf, I feel. You needed to enjoy retirement, and now you're ready to kind of ease back into this kind of thing.
8 months is, also, look, there's a method to my madness here, right? I'm writing a book, and I just signed a book deal. It's so when someone says, well, what's he doing now? Just playing golf? No, the beauty is that you play golf to a certain time at this time of year, and then you go and hibernate in the basement with your laptop and, crank out 90,000 words. And so I have accumulated so many stories, just not accumulated, experienced being a sports reporter for all those years and the opinions that go with it. But there's more to it than that because, I'm through several eras. I started in the 70s when it was newspapers, radio, and TV, and they're not cable TV and not all sports TV. It was 4 stations and the Buffalo stations. Like it was CBC, CFTO, CHCH in Hamilton, City TV, Channel 79, I think it might have been at the time. There was Barrie, CKVR, but they were a CBC affiliate. And then your Buffalo stations, which were Channel 2, NBC, Channel 4, CBS, and Channel 7, ABC, and then later WUTV, which was an independent station, became Fox many years later.
Right.
That's different from a lot of people growing up. They didn't have. Southern Ontario it's the 4th largest market in North America, TV market. It's the rich. I mean, think about all the different stuff. If you lived somewhere in the States, you wouldn't get Canadian television. So you had no way of, seeing that and making comparisons between the way they do hockey and we do hockey. Do you remember the first time you heard a Buffalo Sabres broadcast? You went, what the hell? What fucking homers these guys are. Holy shit, Ted Darling and Pat Hannigan, what homers? Because our guys weren't like that. Right? Bill Hewitt and Brian McFarland. Although people Montreal fans thought that they were like Leaf fans, and we thought Danny Gallivan, and Dick Irvin were Habs fans because they did all the games.
Right.
They tried to be impartial, but when you're a fan, you're blind to that. But to hear the Buffalo announcers and go, oh my God, are they ever fucking homers? Like they can't see the forest from the trees. Everything goes against Buffalo. Everything, that's when I first realized that hometown bias is remarkable. But at the same time, if the team isn't doing well, then everybody just shits on them. Like, trade this guy, get rid of that guy. It's the same in every city. It's not exclusive to Toronto. I realize that. It's not. My cousin's in Detroit. Same thing in Detroit, okay? Same thing in Los Angeles. Team's not playing well. Ownership is shit. Whatever it is, beefs, yeah, they all come out. Trust me. And Toronto is no more difficult a market to play in than any of these other places. That's another thing. Oh, it's so tough in Toronto. It's so hard to play in Toronto. Come on.
This could be a long book, Hebsy. This could be a very thick book here. Okay. So
I have an editor.
Amazing. I love that. And nice comment in the live stream, people who loved your first book, because you've already written a book and now you're writing a new book.
Oh, this is going to be way better. The first book was different. The first book was a biography of someone I had never met before.
The greatest athlete you never heard of.
No one had ever heard of before. It was like a mystery kind of a thing. Like you're going on an Easter egg hunt for somebody. Have you ever heard of this person before? So that was very different. This is obviously from personal experience, but just sort of like, where's media going, Mike? Like, where's it going?
But it could be dramatically change in the next 2 years. Like we have to wait almost 2 years to read this thing. I can't imagine how different the landscape will be in 2 years compared to right now.
Well, that's the other thing is that the editing process is going to have to be as close to the publication of the book as possible. You're going to have to update something, right? Like, for example, when the PWHL season is over, or next season's over, where is it going to be compared to how it is today? Should I be writing about it today or should I wait? So you're right. It's but I think that I think it's heading in a certain direction whereby if players are live tweeting during a game, if you can actually talk to a player while the game is going on, how much further inside can you get than that?
It's wild. Mike, not me, by the way, a different Mike. Mike wants to know, how much do you miss podcasting and or Toronto Mike?
Oh, I miss Toronto Mike. Well, I don't miss Toronto Mike because I listen to your shows. Like, I got to be 1,403. I'm going to say I've probably heard 500, 600.
Did you hear Fergie Oliver's show?
Loved it. He's great. Now,
wild.
Yeah, like I knew Ferg. I've known Ferg for years. Like for the longest time. Fergie's a great guy. Do you know that Fergie Oliver got me passes to Disneyland? Right, went to California.
He had that deal.
He had a deal at Disneyland, right? And I never forgot. I ran into him, and he's like, "You're going to California?" He says, "If you want to go to Disneyland," I said, "Yeah." He goes, and he set us up. He was awesome. Yeah, great guy. And every year in spring training, like I loved hanging out with Fergie. He's an easygoing guy. People would give him such a hard time. I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe he wasn't the most well versed in baseball when he got the gigs, right? But man, he was who he was, and he was a character, and he was a personality, and you know what? Good guy.
Good guy. How is your dad doing?
My dad's great. We took him out for Chinese food the other day. He just got over COVID. So he's 91, 92 in June, and he got COVID.
Right.
He's like, there's COVID. You know, like that kind of thing. I said, hang in there. He goes, I don't know about this COVID thing, right? And then so he's 10 days in isolation. He comes out of it. We take him out. As soon as we bring him back the other day, he calls me. He says, the whole place is shut down. There's an outbreak. Oh, fuck.
Well, listen, I'm glad he's doing well. I saw that photo, actually. I saw that photo. Daryl just wants you to know that he misses hearing you. I miss hearing from Hebsy. So that's Daryl.
Thanks, Daryl.
Brian, I mentioned he had a few questions, but one is that he says, with Hebsy clearly pulling an Elliott Price, though not fortunate enough to be in British Columbia with a milder climate to
You've
play.
got to explain that's
Like
a real, that's like a subgenre of, Montreal.
Well, Elliot, I guess that the deal there is that Elliott Price was retired, right? Like he was retired from radio, and I guess he went to BC and golfs now. Because the question from Brian is, how much improved is your handicap, Hebsy, and will you shoot your age? That's
No, never.
question.
No. I'll never shoot my age. No, that's not going to happen. I think this year.
Well, maybe in 10 years.
No, no chance.
Yeah, I don't
know.
No chance. I don't golf, but
the only chance I might have, maybe, is when I'm 95. I might shoot, but probably not. Probably. I don't know if the.
You know what? I just remembered.
No. Anyway, go on.
I just remembered that because we referenced that Ken Reed dropped by, and I remember opening the Ken Reed episode. He's from the Maritimes, as you know.
Yep.
And he's a big April Wine fan.
Yep.
I'm wondering, were you a big April Wine fan?
I saw him. That's the last concert I was at. Was April Wine. I saw them at the Markham Theater. Awesome, man.
Yeah, see, it feels sudden to me. I guess maybe because I just talked to him like 2 years earlier and he seemed sharp and active and everything, but it just felt very sudden. I mean,
Miles, he wasn't
Miles
well.
Goodwin passed
He wasn't
away.
well, and what happened was he knew he wasn't well, so he retired from April Wine, and I can't think of his successor's name now, but he's fabulous, and they were really great. And I had seen April Wine, probably starting in 72, something like that.
Yeah.
Awesome. And also one of the best shows I ever saw was I was doing a corporate gig for TELUS up at Deerhurst Resort.
Yeah.
So I'm emceeing and I'm, and here now for the Salesman of the Year and stuff like that. And they had a band that was going to perform after the ceremonies, after the sales thing and whatever.
Right.
And so what happened was no one knew who the band was going to be. All their equipment was out on stage. There was something taped, like a piece of paper taped to the bass drum that said a great band or something like that, right? And then April Wine comes out and just blew everybody away. Their first song was 21st Century Schizoid Man.
Right.
And they rocked the place out. They were so good. So,
Wow.
yeah, we saw them a few months back. They were really good.
Again, I'm just now checking. I'm doing multiple. I have my own notes. I'm checking in on the live
So you
stream.
produce your own show like in real time.
Well, I like the real time feedback. For example, we talked about Cassie Campbell leaving Sportsnet, now consulting with the PWHL. And Kingston Gare just points out that she had a conflict of interest covering the NHL, he says, because her husband is the
Brad.
assistant GM of, Brad Pascal of the Calgary Flames.
Calgary Flames, right.
And he always found it interesting.
But he has been for a while, though.
But he found it interesting how she was never critical of the Flames, and that maybe that became like, too much a conflict to sustain, possibly, and it was best to do something else.
I think if you were to have monitored, every broadcast that she was on, and I'm not sure, don't know if we're privy to every type, broadcast she's on, and she might be on a Western, an Edmonton broadcaster or whatever.
Right.
But the point is that, you have to, she should have recused herself when Brad, by the way, Brad Pascal's father, Bernie Pascal, one of the great Canadian sportscasters of all time. Out of BC, did Canada Cup stuff.
Okay.
Awesome, man. Bernie Pascal
what a small world
was
it
great.
is, right?
A lot of the CTV stuff, with Johnny Esau, stuff like that. Yeah, Bernie. So that's his son, Brad.
Okay.
And she should have recused herself once he got the job as the assistant GM. I think not being on Calgary Flames broadcast wouldn't be enough. Because if the situation came up, you're right. If there wasn't a conflict of interest, not perceived, right? But, could she say, the Flames really need to make a deal for a defenseman out there? What the hell's, what's taking so long? You'd be restricted because of that. So, she should.
So she had an opportunity, and that might have led to her decision.
Her decision to go to the PWHL?
Like if you have another opportunity.
Oh,
and then
for
you say,
sure.
yeah,
For
so
sure.
this is
What if Brad ends up being the GM of the team?
Right.
I don't that. Yeah, it is. It's definitely a conflict of interest. And Gara's correct.
I have been waiting, weeks now. So TMLX 14 was at Palma's Kitchen. Missed you there, Hebsy. I hope I can get you to a future.
That was in early December, wasn't it? Because I was going to come, but we were away. Yeah, I know. I'm going to remember exactly because we were away.
Okay, so I should tell you. So I am sending you home with a large meat lasagna from Palma Pasta.
Fabulous.
Well, you love your Palma Pasta. We love Palma Pasta on the show. But we had... that was Stephen Brunt was there for TMLX 14. So I threw him on the mic early because it happened to be the day after the fictional flight. I guess there was a dragon or what do you call that? A Shark Tank. What's his name?
Kevin O'Leary.
No.
Oh, the other guy.
Robert Hertz. Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
Him, that guy. He was on this flight, but it was like I want to ask you your thoughts on that Friday.
Oh, there's a chapter. I've got a chapter already written in the book.
Was not coming to Toronto, but Morosi said he was, and then what's our why can't I remember his name? The guy who you had on Hebsy on Sports, who kind of covers sports media in terms of ratings and stuff.
Oh, Adam Seaborn.
Right. Okay. Adam Seaborn tweets that at 6:00 Rogers has a press conference, and this is right after. So I have so many things here, but one is I know that's his he retires from reporting because he pulled a big boner there.
Who retires from reporting?
Adam Seaborn.
Oh, Seaborn retired from the reporting,
but he doesn't report, right? He doesn't.
No, he's not.
But he did. He gained enough trust that he fooled a lot of us, right? You believe when Adam Seaborn tweets, there's a Rogers has a press
unfortunately, no. And I hate to say this, Adam hasn't gotten there yet because he's not a reporter.
Well, he'll never get there now.
No, but he's not a reporter because a reporter has to have two independent sources before he goes, a real reporter.
But you can build up trust as a reporter.
That's fine. The thing is that you trust. Look, Hazel May trusted her source and said that the Jays were getting Michael Brantley.
Right.
The source was wrong.
Right.
Okay? Lesson learned? So what happens is that you better be damn sure. So you know as well as I do, Mike, that... Never mind that part. There's an entire chapter in my book that's already written about this. First of all,
I can't wait to read this book.
Do you know what posting a Morosi is?
Posting a Morosi is when you tweet that Ohtani's on his way to Toronto.
Posting a Morosi is when you tweet you're in the position where people trust you.
Yes.
When you tweet something
and he was
that you haven't gotten confirmation of,
right?
But you put it out there as absolute truth. Not like, how about this? Hearing that Shohei Ohtani is on a plane to Toronto isn't the same as Shohei Ohtani is on the plane to Toronto.
Right.
Name, John Morosi. Number of followers, blah.
Right.
Okay. Not we're hoping, we thinking, whatever. So you know as well as I do that a good reporter that doesn't have to get it first, whose people aren't going, you better get it before anyone else, better get it before Rosenthal, better get it before the Blue Jay media, who will never, ever break a story about the Blue Jays because the Jays won't allow it.
Right.
Atkins isn't going to give it to them. He's going to give it to Bob Nightingale. He's going to give it to Ken Rosenthal. He's going to whatever. You're right. So unfortunately, all those who cover the Blue Jays for Rogers will never get it first. Right? They won't. Why? Maybe, I don't know, they can't be trusted or, whatever it is. A good reporter goes, okay, hang on a second. Ohtani's on the plane. Who confirmed this? Get a copy of the flight manifest. It's available. You have to know. The names of the passengers have to be on the flight manifest. In case, God forbid, the plane goes down, you got to identify people who was on there. It has to be reported. A good reporter can get the plane manifest.
But Hebsy man.
But no. We got to get it first. We got to get it first. Okay. Who had it first? Let's check the timelines, Mike. Let's go to... he posted it at 4:31, 18 seconds. He beat so... in my feed, when there's a trade or somebody... Like when Samsonov went on waivers,
right.
Within 3 minutes, I had 75 people posting Samsonov on waivers. Samsonov on waivers.
No, I got Elliot Friedman. Everybody.
Samsonov on waivers. Samsonov on waivers. Samsonov on waivers.
Yeah, I know that. Now, hold on, let me break it down real. Come here. So there's a nobody. We'll call him a nobody because he has no integrity with us. But a nobody starts tweeting about a flight that is left, I don't know, somewhere in California.
Yeah, Orange County, John Wayne Airport. Yeah.
So we don't know who's on the flight, but pure speculation based on this nobody starts to rumble on Twitter, particularly, but which is not called Twitter anymore. But I'm going to call it Twitter. But anyway, so there's rumblings of this flight, but that unto itself, it's exciting. But you don't put in. I don't personally put any faith in a nobody telling me he's on a flight. Like, this means not much to me, but it's just fun. But I don't care. Right. But then the John Morosi, who we should point out, Sportsnet's Fan 590 has him on as an MLB expert. Like, this guy is regarded as an insider MLB expert. Okay,
he's gained enough trust that he has several 100,000 followers.
Yeah,
and is seen in many, many different media markets. Yeah.
So his tweet, so after this nobody rumbling about the plane, now we got John Morosi saying Shohei Ohtani is on his way to Toronto. Okay. So people like me, who I consider myself pretty good at what should I believe and skeptical, at that point with Morosi's tweet, I start buying in. Okay, this is Friday, right? So I start buying in with Morosi's tweet.
Did you check any other sources, or you just went with Morosi?
That's all I had.
He's got to be
Morosi.
correct, right?
I had, because on the heels of there is a
see
flight.
if there was a Ken Rosenthal or a John Heyman or any of these other.
When you saw the Morosi tweet, did you start to believe, or did you?
No.
That wasn't enough for you to believe.
And I'll tell you why, Mike. Quite simply, it's that even if he was going to sign, okay, you got to go through a medical, all that type of stuff. The idea that he would jump on a plane so that he would go to Toronto in person to what? The contract's waiting for him?
But remember that there was also the rumor about the Kikuchi reservations,
well,
right?
no, that was nonsense.
Yes, but that is nonsense.
I laughed when I saw that. I thought, oh my God, here's these amateur sleuths going, wait a second, somebody just made a reservation.
Here's my problem. That on itself, you're right, we can laugh. And we can laugh at the flight, because we don't know who's on that fucking flight, and we found out it was a Robert whatever, Hershevek or whatever. But the Morosi, which we do have, has some integrity. So on the heels of all this...
some integrity.
Had in the past sense, man. But then in the heels of all this, our friend, because he was on an episode of Hebsy on Sports of Us, Adam Seaborn, tweeting, Rogers has a conference thing scheduled for 6 p.m. Okay, so there's a flight in the air. We think it must have Shohei Ohtani on it, because Morosi has tweeted Ohtani's on his way, and then Adam Seaborn says Rogers has a thing. Meanwhile, by the way, 590 has decided to go with an unscheduled Blair and Barker.
Hey? Did they get caught with their pants down? The whole thing was a clusterfuck. Started by somebody
Still
who,
angry.
Hey, there's an app, that you can follow the plane. And as soon as I thought of it, I was like, oh, this is what's his name? Kawhi Leonard all over. The first thing I thought of was, did we not do this 3 years ago? It was like the exact same thing. And earlier in the meetings, if you recall, there was a flight that went from John Wayne Airport to Clearwater, Florida, and there must have been them going to Dunedin to look at the new thing, but there's no pictures and nobody can say anything. And that whole thing of, you can't say anything. If you do, he's not going to sign with you. Right. So you can't. And then Dave Roberts, the manager of the Dodgers, oh my God, he started talking about, yes, we met with him, and you can't say that. What a bunch of shit.
So
it's all drama, and all the fans get sucked into this stuff. Yeah. Why can't we wait for it to happen? Why can't we wait for it to be official? Why do we have to? Right. And Hazel May just tweeted that we're getting Michael Brantley, because a couple days earlier, we found out George Springer signed from some guy sitting in a barber chair.
Right.
In a barber chair. The guy was sitting in a barber chair and sitting next to the Asian who was on the whatever it was. He was right. He was correct. They signed George Springer. Everybody went, oh my God, why am I waiting to hear from my baseball expert? Why am I waiting to hear from this guy or that guy or that guy or that guy when I can just open myself up to Twitter and somebody will have the truth out there.
Okay, so
it's unbelievable what's happened. This is the decline. The book is called Madness, Mike. The Rise and Fall of Sports Media. It's in a fall now. It's a free fall now. You're right. A year, 2 years from now, who knows? Right. Who knows?
Oh my God, Hebsy.
What's going to be going on?
Will you send me chapters as they're written? I need somebody to bounce this off.
You know what? Listen to this. If I send you just the first page alone.
Wow.
We
should share that with the world to get Western appetites.
The first page alone is about Wayne Gretzky.
Wow.
It's fucking amazing, okay? And unless you're an insider or you interviewed this guy or you knew what was going on, it's like you're gonna go, holy, really? That's what it's like?
And the lawyers
shit.
Are the
and
lawyers
you were in this business, and you were in this business for how many years? Yeah. Oh, the number one thing that people are worried about is, if you mention names, are you going to get in trouble?
Well, yeah, it's like John Gallagher.
You're going to name names, right? I'm going, yeah, I'm going to name names. You're going to name names? Yeah, I'm going to name names. So immediately it's like, oh, you're gonna say, oh, like this guy was fucking that guy's. No, that's bullshit. That got nothing to do with nothing.
Nonsense.
That's nonsense. Yeah. I'm gonna name names. This happened. That person was involved. I'm not gonna. There might be some situation where I say, I may hint as to who the person was, and it's pretty obvious. I don't want, but I'm not worried about stuff like that, because if it's true, then there's no liable. Huh?
Oh yeah. This is what Lauren Honickman always tells me. You can't if it's true, you can say it.
Yep, that's right. If it's true, you can say it. That's right.
Right. Wow. Okay. So Shohei Ohtani. Just a quick question from Brian: were the Jays played to drive up his price?
No. See, here's the other thing is, I think that we become insulated. We think that it's all about, like, Toronto's in the running. Like, I heard the other day that Toronto is in the lead. What was the expression? I'm like, Toronto has taken the lead in the so-and-so sweepstakes, right? This other pitcher, I can't even remember. Or it's been reported that Toronto now is out in front. I'm like, what is this, a fucking horse race? What are you talking about? Like, when Secretariat won by 31 lengths, he didn't have the lead at the front. Oh, so-and-so's got the lead, right? Like, it's like when someone says he's on pace to score 147 goals. Like, you hear this stuff, and I'm sorry, it goes in one ear and out the other. It's not relevant. It's not context. It's got nothing to do with it.
It's funny, a comment from YYZ Gord is, apparently Hebsy has a backlog of opinions. Seems like a regular podcast is required.
No, why do you think I'm writing a book? I have all this stuff.
It's a long
I have
time.
this stuff
Okay.
there. Oh, and the other one is, did I tell this story on Toronto Mike? Did I tell this story on Hebsy on Sports?
Greatest hits.
And if I have,
Yeah.
and people liked it, well, maybe I should just put it in print.
Greatest hits. I call it the greatest hits. Sometimes Tom Wilson will drop by and I'm like, tell me more about Bruce Springsteen's tits. Like, I like the greatest hits. All right, because it's Blue Jays. Okay, so let's move on from L.A. Dodger Shohei Ohtani, who was never fucking.
By the way,
coming.
that is a day in infamy, in
Friday.
sports media infamy. That day,
Yeah.
the Friday is a Saturday, I guess, right? The Saturday
Well, the
was
Friday was the
but the
flight.
fact- but the-
Saturday was TMLX
Right.
14 when he announced on Instagram he was going to be a Dodger.
See, there you go. You just hit the nail on the head right there. This could have all been avoided. And even Ohtani apologized for not making his decision known on Instagram early enough.
But couldn't
Like, that's
Rogers
the
have
way-
cleared this up? Like, didn't
No,
Rogers know
Rod-
on Friday, or they didn't know Friday?
Rogers, they don't fucking know how to communicate. This is the problem. This is a company that doesn't send their guy on
No
the road, and
Cleveland,
he ends
no
up.
Bowie.
And then they say, "Sorry, Ben Wagner," but there's no,
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you
I got
know.
a backlog of questions.
You know.
Ben Wagner was let go.
You know how I think about that. You know how I think. You
think
have to be
Shulman's son
traveling.
is coming in there?
You have to be
two
traveling.
different things, though. The traveling, yes, you got to be traveling. We know your thoughts on that. But what did you think about the fact they didn't renew Ben Wagner's contract?
Well, I think Ben, probably it's best for Ben anyway, because if you want to flourish as an announcer, you've got to be able to go to all the games, right? You've got to be able to go.
But he also wants to work. I know he might have
Yes.
other opportunities.
Oh, I think he will get opportunities, but he'll get opportunities to work, and do like all 162 games if he's
Okay.
doing radio. I mean, I hope so. I wish him the best, but
you thought he was good, right?
yeah, but you can't get. But also, here's the other thing, Mike. He did it by himself. Then he had, I'd be listening to games, and I told you, Mike, I'm very good at picking out names, voices, whatever. I'm excellent at it, and I'm like, who's on the air with him? Who is this person? Like, I'm trying. My ears, and then a week later, he's on with someone else. So you got to have consistency, right? And they never gave him that. They never gave Ben Wagner a chance. So I don't trust their decision.
Who's going to take over the radio broadcast of Blue Jay games?
No idea. I mean, Sam Cosentino, it could be. I mean, yeah, everything points to Shulman's son. Has he done enough baseball where, I don't know. And the other thing, too, is that what is Rogers, what are the Blue Jays looking for in their radio play-by-play voice? What do they want?
But is there any concern for us fans that we could end up with a television simulcast?
Sure there is. Of course there is. Because
that's worst case scenario
Because, Mike,
here, right?
the biggest problem with sports media is it's not being run by people who know sports or media. Really. It's bean counters. It's people that have no idea. They're not sports fans, right? This guy, and you know the names. I'm thinking, I could give you names of the last 3 or 4 Sportsnet presidents or whatever. We never heard of these dudes before. We won't hear from them again. They were bean counters.
Right.
Bart, whatever his name was, and before that, some other dude that got sent out the door with Keith Pelly and Scott Moore, and before that was somebody else, and somebody else before that. And when I was there, it was Doug Beforth was there. Like, yeah, it's just, who do we got now? Who do we got now? Stability. So, and now they've got a baseball season coming up where we got a new stadium now, and all the seats face home plate. And
right.
And by the way, and I think I told you, did I mention the story to you about my buddy had second row since the Jays began. Second row, even with third base. Phenomenal seats. Fantastic seats. So I think it was like, let's say it was $8,000 a year, right? Whatever it was. Now it's $27,000.
Wow.
For the same seats, because now they've designated
Facing
it to be a
home
different
plate.
section, and it's the second row, and they're premium seats, and da-da-da. So they were given the option. It's either, okay, it's $27,000 or bye.
Yeah, it's rich man
How
sport.
about that, eh?
That's wild. Okay, now, so you talked about, what does Hebsy think? I should wear like a wristband. What does Hebsy think? The biggest missing of Hebsy on sports, I think, was after Barrios was pulled in the 4th inning for Kikuchi.
Oh.
Like, so that was, and then since your last episode.
It's in the book.
Okay, since your last, that's a very Nick Kiprios thing to say, by the way. I had him on for episode 700.
What is it?
And every time I asked Nick Kiprios an interesting question,
Yeah.
he said, it's in the book. And I wanted.
Yeah, but his book's already been published. I'm kidding here. right?
I know you're kidding.
I'm teasing.
I know you're kidding here.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
It's just referencing
But you know what?
in the book.
A lot of people do that.
So yeah, which is
Oh, by the way, didn't you read my book? You would have known the answer to that question.
Right, it's in the
yeah,
book.
but all the listeners may not have. So could you
Right.
please repeat it for us?
Would you mind? But Berrios pulled fourth inning. He was dealing, as they say. What were your thoughts as it was happening, and what would you like to share with us? We've waited months for this.
I think I tweeted out that if I were Berrios, I would have strangled the manager. I just would have strangled him. Because there's no way.
Even though it's not John Schneider's call.
No, I would have strangled him. Because, man, the guy, like you say, he was dealing.
He was dealing.
If you're going to go down with your best. Like, if you're going to lose the game, say, you know what, you had our best guy there. The pitch count wasn't a problem. He was dealing. Now you're thinking too much ahead. And, of course, hindsight's 20/20. But, I mean, it would be like, Mike, you're the top salesman this month. And, by the way, you're being demoted. You're going to Davenport, Iowa. Sorry. But you know what? Next week, you're not really great on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's going to snow on those days. We've got so-and-so. He's got snow tires in his car. We're going to make a change. Like, it's like that. Like, what?
Right.
What?
And it sounded like Atkins threw Schneider under the bus on this one. Like he suggested it wasn't his call. But I what do I know? Except I just assumed that Schneider was ordered to do this.
Right. Do you remember I told you about the radio station program director, a friend of mine, who had told me that he was worried that every time he went to work, he was afraid his pass card wouldn't work?
Yes.
Okay?
Is that John Schneider?
This is sort of like what Schneider. Yeah, this is, I believe, like with Schneider. It's like, look, John, you got this job. You're on a short leash. You haven't got any experience. You come to be at the right place at the right time. You're Charlie Montoya's right-hand man. We didn't have to go outside the organization. Time's running out. So let's see what kind of a manager you are. And ultimately, you're going to make the call. But if it's the wrong call, we can't help you there, John.
See, this was the wrong call.
If it's the right call, we'll take some credit.
If I remember correctly, so Kikuchi comes in and they allow 2 runs.
Yep.
We lost that game 2-0, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the spin, which I fucking almost threw a rock into my television,
right.
was like, oh, we only allowed 2 runs. That's our job. Like the bats have to give us more than 2 runs. Like somehow the spin was that, our strategy worked because we only allowed 2 runs, which is almost like if you were if you didn't actually watch the game. Yeah, no, it was the Blue Jays have a problem with communications. It's only going to get worse. This is part of the downfall of sports media is that you can't question them. You can't hold their feet to the fire because they control the media. The team controls the media. Rich Griffin's not there anymore, right? He can't say, well, you're trying this way. He's a journalist, right? But it's like, no, this is the way it is. We'll come out with our own statement. You don't have to answer your questions, and you'll tell us we'll tell you what your question is to us. It's like that poster, right? If I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. Right. Yes. Right? The right. Mafia Don, right? If I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. But wait, so when you're watching this game and they pull Berrios in the 4th inning. Oh, I was going out of my mind. But was there a moment there where you're like, I wish I had my Friday pulpit, like my Hebsy on Sports? No, I hate to say it, Mike. No, in that case, Twitter is good enough. Okay. Right? I mean, I got my statement out there. There was a fair bit of response to it. There were a few people that said, would have loved to heard you say that on Hebsy on Sports. Like an emergency episode, because you still have the feed. But again, you can do it with, I can articulate it almost as well in print, right? Especially if I actually, which I've done, into the microphone, say, this is the way. And then when you see it come out in script form, you go, oh, that looks pretty good. It's pretty powerful. Those are my actual words that came out of my mouth, and here they are on the page. Now they're going to Twitter, okay? And so I think people get the gist in that case there. Quick love for Great Lakes Brewery, who are going to host us for TMLX 15 on June 27, 99.9% sure, I hope in the next couple of weeks to make that 100%. And maybe if Hebsy's around, he'll show up maybe. Okay. Well, I tried to last time, but again, I wasn't in town on December the 9th. Right. That's a very good excuse. So much love to Great Lakes Brewery. I'll send you home with some fresh craft beer from GLB, Mr. Hebscher. Nice. To go with your palma pasta lasagna. You already played with your measuring tape. That was courtesy of Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Thanks for that, because this comes in very handy. Yeah.
I know guys that have like a measuring tape, like, attached to their belt buckle.
Like Schneider. So,
Yeah.
like not John Schneider, but
Right,
Schneider from
yeah,
One Day
and
at
I
a
always
Time.
thought, whenever, oh man, where's the measuring tape? I don't know, 6 months. Okay, so thank you for that.
You always need a measuring tape. And recyclemyelectronics.ca, Hebsy. That's where you go if you have some old electronics cables that you need to get rid of. Don't throw it in the garbage. Go to recyclemyelectronics.ca. Find out a place near you. You can drop it off to be properly recycled so the chemicals do not end up in our landfill.
Or on the subway system where they could catch fire and, like that. Did you see that e-battery from the e-bike? Oh, my
right.
God.
I did hear
You got to
about
be
that.
careful, folks. You got to be careful with the electronic stuff, especially if it's got those batteries.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Ion batteries, right?
More reason to go to recyclemyelectronics.ca.
Right.
Okay, a few places. First of all, are you listening to any radio these days, like The Fan or TSN Radio?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, I'm just curious, because you got your start in AM radio, but what do you see as the future of AM radio, and what do you think of what you hear on The Fan and TSN Radio these days?
I think it's very inconsistent. I mean, I listen to Overdrive as often as I can. If I'm not listening to it on the radio, I'm watching the TV feed, but it's the content that's coming out of there. So that I try to listen to as often as I can. In the car in the morning, it's the new year, so we're not hearing the old crews, the Christmas crews, right? The fill-in people and stuff like that. Roger Lajoie does a lot of shows during the holidays, that kind of thing, right? So, and I like Roger. He's solid. He's been doing it for years, right? But he's not controversial, and he's in the middle of the road. That's cool. The Alish and Cuthbert show is no longer in the mornings. It's a pregame show prior to Leaf games, I think, at like 5 o'clock, something like that. So this is now where I'm confused because it's hockey season, so the hockey-specific shows are on, and the baseball-specific shows aren't on.
Unless it's a flight in the air.
Yeah, right. There you go. So you really
Stoke
have
the
to
fire.
You really have to kind of monitor the station to find out what their programming is. I like the consistency of this is the morning show, then this is the midday show, this is the early afternoon show, this is the drive home show, that kind of
So this idea was sort of like to podcast on the radio, right? Wasn't that the guy from Yahoo? I think the idea was to have these. You're basically recording your Raptors podcast on the air. Sort of.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Where if you don't catch us on the air, just like the YouTube, if you didn't catch Hebsy on Sports Live at 9 o'clock in the morning,
right?
Anytime you want, right? So it's that idea, and that's fine. I think the problem, Mike, is it's that the youngest sports fans now, Gen X, correct? Gen Z.
Yeah,
it's
not
Gen Z.
X, yeah.
The youngsters.
Because I'm Gen X, and I got
right. The youngsters are Gen Z, right?
Right.
The problem now is finding something that they're going to be able to consume in the way that they consume media now. They're different. It's different from us.
On demand,
they
on
don't
their phone.
even more, more than that. Are they really into? Do they watch full games? Right. Or is it just clips? Right. How long are those clips? Are you infusing, humor with them, that kind of a thing? Because everything is in real time now.
Right.
And, think about it, Mike. I mean, I'm staying up to watch, Sports Center at 11. No, it's available. So I think what's happening is that how do you get this youngest group of sports fans to start following sports the way your generation, my generation, other generations have followed them? Are they following sports differently? And how do we get them? Because if they're gambling on games, well, there's that. If they're real sports fans, it's not so much the gambling. They just love sports. How do we find those people? And are they watching professional women's hockey? Are there other reasons too? Logos? Can you bet on those games? Are there prop bets? Are the gambling sites going to be involved?
Well, talk to me about the gambling.
I'm really worried about the gambling thing. I'm really worried about it. Because when I hear on a radio people getting super deep into a betting line for a game that's that night, that's to me not sports. Because any person can make a prediction and come up with stats to back up why they're making that bet. And then the next day talk about the great parlay that they hit. But that's a pretty limited audience to me. And I don't think that audience really wants the whole scope of the sport, just sort of the betting line so they can, have a bet down.
Speaking of sports media, sports radio, Brian says the closest sports personality that he has found to you, Hebsy, though there will only ever be one Hebsy, he wants you to know, is JD Bunkus. Curious if you have any thoughts on his style of broadcasting. He has many takes like Sid used to, but not as over the top as Sid. What do you think of J.D. Bunkus?
I'm not sure J.D. Bunkus has ever been in a locker room, a dressing room. I'm not sure he's ever been a reporter before. I think he's probably been on the outside and as a commentator, a pundit, if you will, an observer of sports. I actually, I think he knows his stuff, man, and he's a fan, and he's very well informed. But again, he's not the type of a guy that's breaking stories. So it's not like, I listen to him because he's going to break a story. So I get that. So he's doing what he's being paid to do. He's got an opinion. It's over the top. He's got passion and all that. But unless you've been in the trenches, I'm really sorry, but I don't have the same respect for you as I do for someone that's been in the trenches. So anyone that I see on television or listen to on the radio or whatever the platform is, if they're giving an informed opinion, I need to know where that comes from. Were you a player? Do you have that in your background? Oh, that's fine. When I played, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's good. If you're just a commentator and your background is, well, I was a commentator. Did you... do you have interviewing skills? Do you have reporting skills? Mm-hmm. Do you go to different sources? Do you break stories? That type of thing. Are you a journalist? And unfortunately, like I say, a lot of people that I see now, they're not. They're not journalists. They're presenters, but they don't have the background, the journalistic background to give me the information that I need presented in a certain way. Instead, it's just opinion. It's not, look, I was in the locker room, I saw what this guy went through, or I've developed a relationship, I've cultivated a relationship with this player, with this team. I have some inside knowledge that you don't have, versus I have an opinion just like you. Look, my next door neighbor watches as much sports as anybody, but he doesn't go out there and say, hey, but the guy next door to him might be on social media all the time and might one day get his own radio show. I don't know.
When your book comes out in a couple, almost 2 years, will we still have 2 sports radio stations in this market?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, probably, yeah, because Bell, it's like a loss leader for them, I guess. I don't know. They got lots of dough. They may as well have a presence there. Plus, they've got a contract to broadcast Leaf games and Raptor games for, I don't know how many years it is, but so I guess they got the 50-50 split with those.
Right.
So they'll probably be okay. I don't think they're spending a heck of a lot of money on talent, do you?
No. I don't.
Right?
I don't.
Like, oh, geez.
I think O-Dog took all the money.
I mean, Matt Cause is breaking the bank for us, right? And I love Matty Cause, and
sure.
Matty's got, he's back. I think they let him go, then they brought him back, they let him go. They had this whole
loves his wine, that man.
Yeah, they had the whole kerfuffle with Scott MacArthur. They didn't have him. So there's been.
Oh yeah, did you listen to his episode, his return, when he talked about while he basically realized he couldn't be on 1010 anymore. He hated being on Afternoon Drive, and he just walked away. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. Like,
I saw that.
Sold his loft, moved out.
Yeah, east. I saw that. Well, he does a podcast with Richard Griffin now, too. Yeah,
he does a podcast with Richard Griffin.
So, just all the movement of people. And, I thought movement was fairly restricted in Canadian media, especially sports media, because it's like, okay, TSN, you're either there or you're at Sportsnet. You're not going back and forth. They don't have that. There's not this, if you don't like them over there, they'll pick them up. They'll grab them over there.
Right.
That's evident because when they lost the rights to TSN, they maintained all of their key people.
Right.
They signed all.
Well, they only wanted Duthie.
Yeah. Well, I think there might have been some other people that they might have wanted at Rogers. You never know. But the point of the matter is that they made it comfortable enough that if you look at the talent at TSN, they've all been there for a long time. And if you look at the talent at Sportsnet, it's like, some of them have been there for a short time and, may bounce back and forth, or you don't see much of them, stuff like that. I don't know.
I'll say this about the World Junior Championship, because just before you arrived, I was watching us lose with, seconds left, and then Czechia scores and we lose the game. And I realized, the term is over for me now. Yeah. Like, I have zero interest in watching a minute of the World Juniors if Canada's not playing. So here we're at quarterfinals. This tournament, it's done.
Yep. It's the time of year, too. I mean, you've got the time to watch the World Juniors every year because people are on holidays.
Right.
And then when the real running starts after New Year's, and this year school's off until like another week.
Yeah,
right?
Another week. Yeah.
So it's that first week of January, or, a lot of times you're back, 3rd of January, 4th. But now it's like the whole week. So this was the week that we were going to watch Canada win the quarterfinals, semifinals, and win the gold like last year.
Big gold.
We're going to win the gold like last year. Beautiful. Now it's like, that's it. Okay, back to the Leafs.
Yeah, we were missing the Connor Bedard type player. Okay, so I know you've been amazing. It's been great having you back.
Thank you. Great to be here. So I'm going
to train this real quick here. Mystery fan, just should the Leafs fire Sheldon Keefe? Is mystery fan's question for you.
My question would be, who are you going to get to take his place that's going to be a better coach? Tell me. You want Craig Berube? He's available. I mean, I don't know, he might want to take the rest of the year off, right? Do you really think that, like, it's not the players? Like, it's Sheldon Keefe's system, or he's playing the wrong guys? I mean, go to the general manager, the new guy, Brad Treliving, and say, hey, what are you going to do for this team? How are you going to improve this hockey team? It's not Sheldon Keefe's fault that Ilya Samsonov couldn't stop a beach ball. It's not Sheldon Keefe's fault that Joseph Wall got hurt and isn't going to be back till when. It's not his fault, right? I mean, Austin Matthews is doing all he can, right? What are you going to do? You're going to go trade Mitch Marner? So it's up to the GM to supply the players, okay? I haven't, I mean, Sheldon Keefe has been out-coached before, but I can't see anything in his coaching this year that justifies him being fired.
What did you think of the big Raptors trade the other day?
I liked it. Because to me, I haven't liked OG for a couple of years. He's too injury prone. He'll look great for a while, great, then he'll get hurt. Then he'll come back and he'll get hurt again. So I never thought that OG was the guy. Like, geez, if we don't have him, we have no chance.
Right.
He's a good player, solid player. He'll be fine on the Knicks. But I do like what we got back in return. Right? RJ, I like Quickly, though. He's awesome.
Right.
He's awesome. So, they looked pretty good last night considering they hadn't, they had one practice or something, like half a practice. So, yeah, I'm excited for the team, and I think that they will trade Pascal Siakam.
That was my next question.
He's a great player, but, like so many else, he's got to go somewhere else. Like Tracy McGrady had to go, like Vince Carter had to go, I guess.
I know you grew up grew up into adulthood. You were a big Toronto Argonaut fan, and
I was the biggest Argonaut fan. I did play-by-play for the Argos for 2 years. I was the biggest Argonaut fan. And then once the Blue Jays came, and the Argo games weren't all on television, they should have been, but the blackout rule,
right.
They lost a generation of fans. They did.
But they already had you.
But they lost the next generation. That's your generation. Right. And my kids' generation as well. They did. Now, for a while, they came back there in the early 90s, Rocket Ismail and Matt Dunnigan, and, when Candy and Gretzky and McNall owned the team, stuff like that. But it wasn't sustainable because it's the league. It all stems from the league, the ownership. They should have had a team in Atlantic Canada years ago. I don't care if the stadium out there only seats 15. It doesn't matter. You call yourself the Canadian Football League. You don't have a team in Atlantic Canada. Every year you go out there and you do your fucking Atlantic Schooner shit and all that, get people excited. Come on. It can't be that tough. All you need to do is have, 5, 6 home games, 7 home games, whatever it is. Fine. 2 of them in Moncton and 5 in Halifax. It doesn't matter. In Halifax, Fredericton. What the fucking difference is it? Canadian Football League. So that, and the other one was they never took advantage of Canadian college football weekends and made a weekend of football. A weekend of, let's go up to Ottawa. GG's against Carleton in the Panda game. Next day it's the Ottawa, what are they called? Renegades? Rough Riders? Whatever they are?
Ottawa? Red Blacks.
Yeah, Red Blacks. There you go. I forgot. But you know what I mean? And then, so now you would have Carleton, or you'd have University of Ottawa against University of Montreal.
Right.
Right? No, they're not in the same league, are they? Whatever it was. You'd have a college game, right? You have a CFL game on the Friday night, and you'd have a college game on the Saturday afternoon. People would come, they'd, tailgate, whatever it was. You could do that in every single town. McMaster and the Hamilton Ticats, right? Ottawa, they got the 2 universities there and the Red Blacks. Montreal, you got McGill, you got Concordia, you got the Alouettes, okay? I don't have to tell you, the University of Manitoba, University of Saskatchewan, Alberta Golden Bears, right? You got lots. Calgary Dinosaurs, all these schools have football teams, and they have CFL teams. How tough can it be if you're marketing? But they never had the marketing. They never had the sense. They also never had the sense during the baseball all-star game to schedule a couple of CFL games. Because the only thing you're going up against is the home run derby. Come on, you idiots. Oh, no. I remember they said, oh, no, we would never have a CFL game on a Monday night. Why not? Why the hell in July? Why not?
Right.
School's out. What's the difference what night of the week it is? Dum-dums.
Right. And this, by all I didn't watch a lot of the regular season Argos, but I was told it was the best team ever. Like, just the best CFL team ever. And then they flamed out against the Alouettes in front of the biggest BMO field crowd they'd ever had. It was a perfect shitstorm, actually, for the poor Argos.
Yeah.
But were you watching that game against the Alouettes?
No, I wasn't.
That you can't even know. Not even.
No, I haven't. I haven't followed the league, and I haven't followed the team. I haven't. And remember, I did play-by-play for this team. I just saw a steady decline, and you can tell. I mean, they're going, "Oh, come on, let's see if we can draw more than 11,000 fans." They're pulling teeth. They have to have a franchise in Toronto for the league, but they haven't looked beyond that. They haven't really. They don't have the leadership. They just don't. Name all the CFL commissioners since Jake Goddard. Go, right? So
John Tory,
Donald Crump, Randy Rosie, what's his name? The CEO of Cohan, right?
Right. Okay.
Anyway.
So move on from the CFL here. I know you're not a big guy, but Corey says bring back Rock and Mark Hebdude next Halloween.
That's a good one, eh?
So for those who don't know, what is this referencing? Rock and Mark Hebdude.
Okay, so I'm trying to think what year it was. I'm going to say it was probably in the late 80s. It was a Friday night, and Halloween happened to be on a Friday night. Jim Taddy took the night off. He had scheduled it before. I don't know, took his kids out trick-or-treating, whatever it was. He was off that night. I was solo anchoring that night. And, I like to take chances. So I'm like, Jim's not here. Now, Jim might have gone for it. He might have said, yeah, excuse me, let's do something on Halloween. But he wasn't there. So I said, look to the crew. I said, let's dress up. I'll dress up. And let's get some scary sound effects. And let's decorate the set with goblins and goose. And let's get the really great sound effects. And let's do the whole show. I'll do the whole show in character as Rock and Mark Hebdude. Bandana, dark glasses, black long-haired wig, studded dog collar, like the whole deal. And I came out and, hi, welcome. Hey, this is the Mark Hebdude, man. And hey, man, hey, man. And did all the hockey highlights that way. And then, of course, our audio guy would put in like spooky screaming sounds. And all that over the highlights. And all the graphics had like exploding pumpkins and witches flying by. Everybody had a really great time. Like, it was a lot of fun. It was totally a one-off. It was for Halloween. You can get away with it on Halloween, and we did that. And
amazing.
I don't have the tape. I have a portion of the tape, like a clip of it from somewhere. But man, I would love to have seen that whole show because we were just having so much. Like, once you're into it, it's like, okay, it's like now that we're in character, we may as well go all the way with this thing.
Love it. VP of Sales, Tyler Campbell says, why was Luciano Borsato a friend of Sportsline?
Okay, Luciano Borsato was from Woodbridge, Ontario, and one of our producers, and I'm going to say it was Anthony Ciccione, and him and Luch grew up together. They were pals together. So when Luciano Borsato debuted with the Winnipeg Jets, the old Winnipeg Jets, now the Phoenix Coyotes, Anthony was like, that's my buddy Luciano Borsato. Like, and he was his friend. So, and I think he came to the station one day or something, whatever it was. So he immediately was friend of Sportsline. Immediately. I mean, he was the first guy that was like related to or that we knew, like that grown up with, that was like, hey, there he is. And then pretty soon we would point out people that we had met or we had known them from junior. We had interviewed them before.
Right.
The best of them all was Rem Murray, who was from Stratford, Ontario, playing for the Edmonton Oilers. And one night he scores the winning goal. And I go, Rem Murray from Stratford, Ontario. I get back to my desk after the show. There's a phone message. It's from Rem Murray's uncle. And it says he's from Dublin, Ontario, not Stratford, Ontario. Get your facts straight. Right? I was like, okay, people are listening. And they're very, very protective of their hometown.
Speaking of listening, real quick hit from Edmonton, Matt Layden, who says, are you guys going to talk about the absence of Jeff Merrick on Hockey Night in Canada and the departure of Dave Poulin from TSN to the Ottawa Senators? First, I got to say, I didn't even know Jeff was absent from.
Well, Jeff does a show every day on. He's got his own show.
He does a radio show.
He's got his own show.
I think
he's on Sportsnet 360 also.
Right.
Yeah, but simulcast show.
So maybe he's got enough going on. He doesn't.
Got tons going on. He does a show every day. I think from noon to 1 or noon to 2. So he's on every day.
Well, Matt wants him everywhere.
He's on 32 Thoughts with Elliot Friedman. So there's your answer, Matt.
Okay.
The guy only has so many hours in the day. And the other one was Dave Poulin.
Yeah,
fabulous, great. Listen, fabulous break for Frankie Corrado. Tremendous break.
FOTM
Frankie is
got him.
fabulous. I heard that show. He's really good. And you know what? They'll utilize him more now that Dave is back doing what he, I think, really loves to do. And that is, I mean, he's an administrator. He's a hockey guy. And being on the outside looking in and commenting on games and sitting on the panel is one thing. Being involved in the day-to-day operations of a National Hockey League team, that's a whole other story. Good luck to him.
Well, good luck to you, Hebsy. I
Thanks,
hope you
bud.
continue to enjoy retirement. And I hope that you have good success of writing this book, and I can't wait to read it.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me, and thanks for indulging me. It's been a long time.
There's nothing that you said, oh, I want to mention this, and you don't have anything you forgot to say that you need to share with the listenership here.
Well, I miss all of you, and I'm glad that you are still interested in what I have to say about sports.
Oh, yeah. You kidding me?
Yeah, so
I'm going to
thanks.
keep a list of things, and I think, what would Hebsy think? And I'll just collect them all, and then maybe, I don't know, every 6 months if you come over, I'll just drain the swamp and get your takes on everything.
Sure. Look,
Even if you have no take. Or don't
listen, it can be as often as you want to. You know, the sports media stuff we did, I always enjoy talking
Well, I would
about
love to do
sports.
that. Even Ken Reed misses that.
Yeah,
Everybody
yeah.
misses
Plus,
that.
you give me some great ideas for the book, right? It's terrific. You'll get a credit. Don't worry about it.
Oh, wow. Are you going to catch any Toronto Maple Leafs baseball games at Christie Pitts this coming summer?
You know, I don't live there down in that neighborhood anymore, so I would say it's probably unlikely. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
I might have to see. I don't know. I feel like, more to come, but I might have an in there, and we'll see if we can entice you to get back for at least a game or two. I'm going to work on that.
You probably can. I certainly like the area, and there's some really great restaurants around there, so I can be. We can invite Bill King to come.
Love Bill
He
King.
lives right up the street.
Okay.
Okay.
Done deal. And that brings us to the end of our 1,403rd show. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm on Blue Sky, by the way, at Toronto Mike. Hebsy is at HebsyMan. Much love to all who made this possible, and there's always room for more, but I'd love to shout out Great Lakes Brewery, Palma Pasta, Recycle My Electronics, and Ridley Funeral Home. Thank you, Hebsy, for my new Sportsline t-shirt. I'm going to wear it for our photo right now. See you all. Quickly going to my calendar because I do not know who's next. Hold on here. Who's next? It might be an FOTM KOTJ. Oh, it's Ed Keenan
Nice.
from the Toronto Star. See you all then.